Now we'll go back. The next item on the agenda is now 5B, the item which Commissioner Marshall is recusing himself. It's 461 El Camino Real, a request, a environmental determination is categorical exemption, request for a conditional use permit to allow alcohol beverage sales in conjunction with a restaurant per section 1296 110C5 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Staff report, please.
Do it from down here. Well, thank you. I think everyone on the Planning Commission knows this business well. It's Don Pico's. It's been there for nearly 3 decades at 461 El Camino Real, and what that is, it's 1/2 of a commercial building. They're both about 3,500 square feet each, making a total of about a 7,000 square foot building. On the north side of the building is Don Pico's, always has been. On the left side of the building was a business called Cleo's Brazilian Steakhouse. That steakhouse outgrew that location and moved downtown to a bigger location and is doing business now down there now. This gave Don Pico's the opportunity to expand into this space, something they've been wanting to do for a long time. It's a very popular restaurant, both a local draw and a regional draw, and they needed more room, so they took this opportunity to expand within this commercial space. This has already received a building permit for the tenant improvements, received an architectural review and facade improvement grant for new facade improvements. But now it's before you tonight because they're proposing to expand the on-site alcohol use within the business. As the Planning Commission knows, we adopted an ordinance about 5 years ago which required that any business that serves beer, wine, or hard liquor for on-site consumption needs to get a use permit through the Planning Commission, whether it be a bar or a restaurant that's serving that. Don Pico's was grandfathered in because they had been in business for so long, but now that they're they're basically for 2 reasons, proposing to expand into another space, expanding the alcohol use, and also going from a beer and wine to beer, wine, and hard alcohol requires the Planning Commission approval. All the Planning Commission, or all the departments, including the police department, reviewed this, have placed conditions of approval in here. Standard operating hours for this, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and the standard conditions of approval are within the staff report. So I could take any questions at this time, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions.
Any questions by the commission for staff? I have a question. The parking there is fairly famously difficult in that you can drive in, but it's very difficult to drive out, and frequently cars are seen backing onto El Camino Real, which is a pretty heavily trafficked street. When there's an application for alcohol beverage sales that increases the intensity of use of alcohol, it makes me wonder if there isn't a nexus there for looking at that parking and finding, is there a way that the parking can be utilized and have a better exit method than backing onto the street?
Well, the nexus question, I think the first question is whether or not there's a better solution there. And we've looked at this before, and the applicant actually looked at this before because he's run a business there for 30 years. And
right.
I've talked to him directly about, hey, it is a dangerous situation. The problem is that you have one business, Tabor Guns, that it's a shared parking lot between the two, and there's just not enough width with the whole lot to be able to have perpendicular parking, 90-degree parking spaces that someone could back out and then come face forward out of the Don Pico's parking lot. So people do have to go in that angled spot and then come out.
They have to back out?
They have to back out.
Because, so the city, I'm surprised the city accepts a safety hazard like that. As a practical matter, I've pulled in there, and if you back out, drive down to the end, turn one way, back out, you can turn and get out of there.
Yeah, you can. I guess it depends how crowded the parking lot is and
how it's striped and what the functional intentions are.
I mean, what we could do is, I could, and our engineers have looked at it before, but I could get a fresh set of eyes on the parking lot and see if there is anything we can do to reconfigure it. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate for a condition of approval here, but it's something that I think the applicant would be open up to if we could resolve a problem that his customers have been having.
It doesn't do the other business any good either to have, it's a situation, if you go in there to park, you're happy as long as you're buying products or eating food, but then when you go to leave, it can be very difficult. All right, any other comments, questions of the commission? Commissioner Chase.
I'd just like to reiterate what Chair Peterson said about, the parking. That was one question that definitely stood out in my mind, is that you're doubling the size of the restaurant and yet you're not increasing any parking spaces. And, I don't know, do we normally, do that for, that's not the norm, if I'm correct.
Well, the slight difference in this case is that Cleo's was already a restaurant. So he's taking over existing restaurant space. And Cleo's, what was actually part of the difficult situation is that Cleo's and Don Pico's shared those parking spaces. So now it's all still restaurant space, it's just one tenant versus two tenants. But you're right, let's say if it was going from restaurant to retail, we couldn't allow it because of the parking requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commission questions?
Yeah, through the chair. Just as a general question, if the applicant were moving into the new space and just wanting beer and wine, continuing the liquor license, would they be before us today, or is this because of the fact that they want to use hard alcohol?
No, yes, because of the fact that they didn't have a use permit before and they're expanding, and because of the hard alcohol.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions? Okay, now I'd like to open the public hearing, ask the applicant to step to the podium and make any comments you wish to on the application. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mel Phillips. I live on Cherry Avenue. I'm a construction consultant and general contractor for Don Pico's. In the time that I've been working with Don Pico's on this particular project, we have complied with all the stipulations presented by staff, by the FOG committee, the FOG jurisdiction that handles the grease trap assignments and the fat oil and grease containments that go into piping, and we intend to fully comply with everything that staff has recommended.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the commission for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you very much. Anyone else here like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, bring the matter back to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Chase.
I'll make a motion that we approve use permit 11-001 based on findings of fact 1 through 5, subject to conditions of approval 1 through 18.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Biasotti. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. There's a 10-day appeal period.